It's time for New Wellness TV with Dr. Lee. Join your host, the accomplished Dr. Cherilyn Lee, as she welcomes the leading experts in health and well-being as they explore the advancements in natural health, physical fitness, nutrition, integrative medicine, and self-discovery.
Good day, everyone, or evening, or whatever time it is for you. You know, every show is very precious and meaningful for me. I have a very special guest today, and what we're going to discuss today is for the entire family. And also, before you start your family, you have to start when a child is in utero with your treatment plan, your healing. Everything has to start from the very beginning. That's where it starts, not so much once they're here. If you can do that, which is fine. I'm so happy I can do that with my daughters who have been on this wonderful journey with me. Our topic today, sick doctors, sick patients. Now, my guest actually chose that title, and he's going to go into more details as we go through the show and tell you why. Sick doctors, sick patients. Because he did a study himself with several people that were doctors and practitioners. So he's going to share that. So I want to say that, please, right now, share this show with your friends and family, because this is a show that's going to help save your life. We know what's going on in the environment. We know what's happening with our autoimmune system. From head to toe, we're going to discuss a healing for you. So please, right now, share this with your friends and family. And I want to thank everyone that called me after the show and talk about how the show has helped them, how they're healing, and things that's going on with them. But please share this show. My guest today is Mr. Dwyatt.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. It's a pleasure to be with you here today.
Let the people applaud for you. They're happy you're here. Let them show that they're happy for you. Okay?
Thank you so much. You know, it's very rewarding. I've been working 25 years in wellness.
Yes.
And I lecture at medical conferences all over the world.
Yes.
And we've did about a dozen conferences in the last 18 months. And I put out a challenge to physicians that they're sick. That every one of them were sick. And if any one of them, and we had thousands of physicians come by, talk to us about this challenge, if any one of them could prove to us that they were healthy, I'd give them $1,000 on the spot. Open to all comers.
That's the part. That's why the title is Sick Doctors, Sick
right.
Patients.
And so we want to explain that we had a tremendous amount of physicians come up and sign up for the program. And all they had to do was take a simple test to prove that their gastrointestinal tract was healthy, was homogeneous, was intact, and that they didn't have leaky gut syndrome. 40 of those thousands of physicians felt that they had perfect health, and they took us up on the blood tests and challenges. I've paid no one.
Now listen to that.
One of these physicians.
You tested 40 physicians.
Yes, that challenged us.
That look healthy.
Yes.
They look healthy.
These were the healthiest of thousands.
They're healthy, yes.
Yes.
And you challenged them.
Yes.
To do the test for leaky gut.
That's right. And every one of them failed.
And we'll talk about that because you were a guest of mine probably 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. You and I go back for many, many years.
That's correct.
And thousands of people, when I was with another outlet, watched that show, listened to the show because it was radio. And I want to tell people we are radio and television, so I want to thank everyone for tuning in. But our show title was Leaky Gut. And that is the primary purpose of your being here.
That's correct. You know, Hippocrates, almost 2,000 years ago, the father of medicine, said that all disease begins in the gut.
Yes.
Now, Dr. Oz had a show on leaky gut. He basically complemented that. Mm-hmm. David Perlmutter wrote a great book on the brain, talking about leaky gut syndrome and how it affects us mentally with Alzheimer's and depression and Parkinson's and ALS, etc. And all autoimmune disease begins in the gut. Now, here's a startling statement for you. This comes from our National Institute of Health, from the Center of Disease Control in Atlanta, which is our premier health watchdog in this country. They came out with a statement a couple of years ago that said every one of us are going to die of an autoimmune disease.
Well,
every one of us.
Yes.
And these are preventable. This is what my message here today is that if your listeners will listen, take advantage of the information we have here today, you can turn this around and prevent it, and prevent decades of misery and decades of time cut off from your life.
Exactly. And I have so many patients because like I said, over 15 years. Longer than I've been working with you and working with the product on the Colostrum. I'm happy to say that now there's a professional version for the Colostrum, and we will be giving out that website so those who are listening will be able to go directly to the website or and order it through our professional website.
Well, let's talk about what colostrum is first.
We definitely have to talk about what it is.
Because a lot of people don't know what it is. And I should say 50% of the public should know because they're women. And colostrum is the first substance that is produced as the first food of life for their newborn.
Exactly.
Now, all mammals produce colostrum.
Yes.
Mice to man. All mammals except humans will die if they don't get it. It's that powerful. They honestly cannot survive without colostrum. So what does colostrum do? When we're born with holes in our gut on purpose to allow colostrum to flow from our mother's breast when we suckle down through those permeations. In other words, we're born with leaky gut syndrome on purpose so that the colostrum can flow into the bloodstream. Now, this is
that's
vital.
Why the babies are healthy.
Because we don't have an operating immune system without colostrum. And the immune system, its operation, is responsible for keeping us healthy. This is how we ward off disease of every kind. And so an over-functioning immune system, we call those autoimmune conditions. Under-functioning, we call those infections, and cancer is an under-functioning immune system. And so every disease begins with the process and the problem of a third of mothers today choose or cannot breastfeed.
Exactly.
That means a third of our population is born with leaky gut and it never gets healed. And the rest of us have leaky gut. And remember, I said every physician failed us. It's because of the lifestyles that we either choose or are forced upon us. And I say to a great degree are forced upon us by our food industry.
Most definitely.
So let me make a statement here. The state of California, we're down visiting in Hollywood today. The state of California, in its wisdom, has decided that a number of substances are cancer-causing and ban those. One of those that they've attempted to ban is glyphosate. It's also normally called Roundup. It's sprayed on our wheat and corn crops. All of the wheat and corn crops in this country, if they're not organic, get sprayed with this. And Monsanto, the company that developed this, says it doesn't cause cancer. Now, I'm going to make a bold statement and say that directly glyphosate doesn't cause cancer. What it does, since it's an herbicide, and all of the beneficial bacteria in our gut are plants, what it's doing is it's destroying our biome.
Yes, it is.
And when it destroys the biome, that destroys the gut integrity, destroys the gut lining, causes leakage, and that is the primary cause of cancer.
Exactly.
So, yes, Roundup is causing cancer indirectly. Because of the activity it's doing in the gut, it does exactly the same thing it's doing out there when you spray it on the crops.
And I want to just share, I had a new patient that came into the office, and he had been seen at one of our big hospitals. Yeah. They have a full department there on SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. Yes. So now more doctors are looking into that. But they don't understand. You still got to get rid of the leaky gut. Well, let me explain something
about small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. You cannot turn this around by taking beneficial bacteria. It's not possible. You put them in your mouth and they end up in the toilet. They just pass right through you. There's no room for them. You have to go in and clean the gut out first. That's what colostrum does. Colostrum has immune factors, immunoglobulins and lactoperoxidase and lysozyme and lactoferrin that destroy pathogenic bacteria.
Exactly.
Carry them out. Put them in the toilet where they belong. Now you have room for beneficial bacteria to populate. So what I'm saying is that beneficial bacteria by themselves are worthless.
Yes, they are. And now with the research, since I've seen you, and I've used colostrum for so many things, some things that we discussed over the phone, that now you sent me some research and show where it's been used in some GYN conditions as well. But I do want to say from head to toe, we're going to start from the top of the head, what is useful. We know it's now, because I have used it with my Alzheimer's patients as well.
Yes.
Which
is an autoimmune disease.
They're all autoimmune.
So let me talk about brain health. We have found that inflammation is directly tied into every form of chronic disease. Every. Heart disease, cancer, mental health,
exactly,
every autoimmune disease. So brain health, when we talk about Alzheimer's, is predominantly caused. Now, this is published data out of medical journals that have discussed the fact that it's brain permeability, in other words, inflammation of the blood-brain barrier, that causes Alzheimer's. So how do you stop inflammation of the blood-brain barrier? You have to start with the gut. You have to heal and stop the inflammation in the gut. And then we can, through the same molecules that are in colostrum that help and prevent that, and it's the only substance on the planet that will do this, that's clinically proven to do this. Colostrum also prevents and heals and stops the inflammatory process of the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I had some patients say, well, I can't take colostrum because I'm allergic to milk.
And you know something? I want to make a broad statement
here.
And
I knew you would.
You cannot be allergic to a food. You cannot, unless you have leaky gut syndrome. So what I'm saying is that the primary test for leaky gut syndrome is to go take a blood test for food allergies. If you have any food allergies, including dairy, you have leaky gut syndrome. Now, I'm also going to make a statement that colostrum is the only thing that will heal it.
Oh, yes.
So how do you deal with this? We start out very slow with the colostrum and build its dosage up so that as we're destroying the pathogens and healing the gut, we don't have a crossover of undigested foods of any sort, including dairy, into the bloodstream.
Yes.
Now, I'm also going to tell you another story.
Okay.
I went in for my annual medical checkup. I'm 70 years of age.
You're kidding.
And I went in for my medical checkup.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay? And the doctor said to me, my doctor, lady doctor, is a wonderful doctor, Shada Sina in Sedona, Arizona, where I'm from. She says, Doug, I want to test you for allergies. And I turned to her and I said, I don't have any allergies.
Yes.
And she says, that's not possible. Literally, she said
I'm
that.
Sure.
And I said, fine. And so she took pinpricks up and down both arms, hundreds of them.
The allergy screening, yes.
And the allergy screening, and I had no response. No.
Well, you look
and she said, this is impossible. She said, nobody in thousands and thousands of patients that I've worked with over 20 years has ever had a zero response to allergies. And I said, this is what colostrum will do if you take it every day. And so one of the things that we're trying to get people to understand, and I want to give you a little history because I look at myself as a medical sociologist.
Yes, okay.
What does sociology and medicine have to do with each other? It's a study of long-term health. Yes. I'm not talking about the last few years. I'm talking about thousands of years.
Yes.
And what we've had predominantly is that, colostrum not only imparts the immune system, it heals the gut. That's its third purpose, and its most important purpose is that it heals and matures the gut so we have no leakage.
Exactly.
And it stops toxins from entering the body. And toxins entering the bloodstream and disrupt the immune function and create the disease process. Now, it used to be that after we got finished with breastfeeding, and every infant in the world was breastfed or they died. And then formulas came along, and formulas are nothing but dead. They're dead food. They have nothing in them that will heal or prevent leaky gut or balance immune function.
Not
nothing.
At all.
They're
Not
junk
at all.
food. Okay. So we need to have what I call immune and growth factors, and there's hundreds of them in colostrum. This is what colostrum's comprised of. So when you're taking colostrum, you're not taking colostrum, you're taking hundreds of bioactive immune and growth factors.
Yes.
Now here's the second part of this statement that a sociologist brings to the table. The first food for humans always was milk, because we could capture an animal with an udder, milk it. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We didn't have to kill the animal to eat. In every society on the planet, milk was the most important food. Now, it came from different animals. In Africa, it was goats or sheep. In Asia, it was horses. And other animals on the North American continent, it was reindeer, etc. We've had milk contains small amounts of immune and growth factors. Now, here's the problem. We now, in advanced societies, because of federal regulations and laws that are put in place designed to so-called protect us, we don't have any raw, fresh milk available to the vast majority of the public. So immune and growth factors are now missing. Now, here's why this is critical. We stopped producing enough immune and growth factors on our own body thousands and thousands of years ago. We did the same thing with vitamin C. We don't produce vitamin C, but your dog does, your cat does, the whale does, the porpoise does, the mouse does, every other mammal on the planet does, but us. And so there's two factors, critical factors. Immune and growth factors have to be in your diet every day if you want to prevent disease and provide longevity. And the only way to get it is to buy a cow or to get colostrum. And the right colostrum that has been proven to have all of these factors, and there's only one colostrum in the world that has them all. And tests.
You know, because years ago, when I was born, I had tons of allergies.
Yeah.
And the one problem at the time the doctors put me on was goat milk. Years and years ago, and we hear about that too. But when you do the colostrum, if I had known, my parents had known, because I was scheduled to have my legs amputated as a child. From the thigh, from actually about 4 inches above the knee, bilateral, both legs, when I was 7 years old because of eczema. Now, that was an allergy. And then I had asthma. And it's caused by
leaky gut.
And then it was asthma on top. And then, you know, things that my mother went through.
And both of those are autoimmune conditions.
Exactly. And if you know, this is what I do now with my children, about to have my number 10th grandchild.
Yeah.
Now, if my daughter is definitely, she's a nutritionist as well. So she is an advocate on making sure that she takes her colostrum, which
I'm so glad you brought up the skin health. Because
my skin
what
has
we have
never,
to and your skin just looks gorgeous.
My skin has never, and so many people ask me, have I had cheek implants? I'm like, no. Have I had Botox? No. And I just turned 66. So and
you don't look that at all.
And I don't feel it.
Lovely.
I feel great. You know, taking my colostrum at night, knowing too when to take colostrum on an empty stomach late at night.
That's right.
Because the liver and
that's when we heal.
Yeah, that's when we go through the healing. Actually, from 10 to 2.
The thing about skin,
really,
and let's get into this very briefly, is if you have leaky gut, then the liver, which is our biggest detox organ, goes overworked. And this is where we have all kinds of liver problems. Now, doctors try to attempt to deal with this with liver cleanses.
Yes.
Nonsense. Because as long as you have leaky gut, you can clean that every week and it won't do you any good.
Exactly.
See, the liver, when it gets overtaxed, then the problems show up in our skin.
It shows up
in the skin. And that's why eczema or acne or psoriasis or other skin problems, including rosacea, etc., all originate in the gut, overtaxed liver. So in order to stop this process, when we heal the gut and we stop the crossover toxins into the bloodstream, the liver can heal. Now, here's another piece of information. Colostrum is so incredible, it will heal and repair the liver, even liver damage from cirrhosis.
I've used it for
even
hepatitis.
From cirrhosis.
Yeah, I've used it for cirrhosis. You know, I follow my patients very closely with lab work. So it's not that you walk away and say, I feel good. Before we start, I do blood work. So I want to look at those inflammation. I want to look at the inflammation markers, the C-reactive protein. And in most cases, I'll tell a person if they're out of state, you can go to lifeextension.com. You can order your own blood test,
and
except for a couple states.
Insulin levels too.
No, I also check for insulin levels.
And a simple food allergy
hemoglobin
panel.
A1C. I still want to know what that is because a lot of people don't even know they're walking around diabetics.
Yes.
So this is functional blood tests that I'm looking at. It
That's
isn't just the mainstream what I was taught in school.
Thousands and thousands of patients that are taking those blood tests, when they take colostrum, all of those markers will come down.
Oh, I've watched
Every one of them will come down.
I had one lady who walked in my office. She was young. And she had gone to a dentist who really gave her a very, very powerful antibiotic. And it just destroyed the lining of her colon. And when she got into the ER, they didn't know what was wrong with her. By the time she came to me, and I'm looking at her, I thought she had been on chemotherapy. I mean, she was just wasting away. And do you know, I drew her blood. I draw blood before I start anybody anything because I want to know where you are before I start. And in 5 days of her treatment plan, 5 days, I repeated her CBC, her C-reactive protein, her insulin level, did all her blood work and repeated it. Do you know she was in normal range? Her doctor couldn't believe it. It's like, well, what did you do?
Yeah.
And when she went home that evening, we started right in the office with a treatment. Because I'm a type of person, I don't like to wait. Healing begins right now. If we met, it was the reason why we met. It's the reason why we met. Putting God first and getting you going with your treatment plan, we started right now. We don't wait.
And God created colostrum.
Yes.
Not man. It wasn't formulated in a scientific lab.
Yes.
And that's really important for your listeners to understand. And it's perfect.
Yes.
Or something else would have been the very first substance to enter your mouth.
Most definitely.
So this is the beginning of life, but it isn't the end. It's the beginning that keeps you young and keeps you thriving. It is the most powerful anti-aging tool in the world. We just sent in colostrum to us.
That.
Do you know what telomeres are? They're the ends,
yes.
the ends
and
of
we
the
test
DNA.
We test for that.
And we've
well.
shown that colostrum helps prevent their breakage and will actually lengthen the telomere.
And that's important. So your biological and chronological age, we test for that as well. And I had a very dear friend who, her daughter was like 35, and here I was 63 at the time. I was 35 years younger, and she was 35 years older.
Yeah.
And because of lifestyle and things that were going on. So things turned around in her life.
Yeah.
We retested her, and she's doing much better now. But not only just doing that test, we also did the inflammation markers and looked at everything. Because scientifically, I want to know what's going on with the body. You could feel great. I feel great. But I'm still testing myself because I had a history of colon cancer. I've had pulmonary embolisms. And the thing is, we want to know what's going on. So if we know better, we should do better.
Yep.
And that's why I said this show is one that should be shared with everyone because there's so many modalities with this colostrum product that's so simple. That's a food that you can just add to your regimen.
And it's safe for everyone.
And it should be
Except
daily.
I want to mention one thing to your listeners. If your biome is upside down, and guess what? Everybody's
why don't
is.
You explain
Everybody's
the biome.
The biome is the ratio of beneficial bacteria to pathogenic or disease-causing microbes in your gut. And this is a garden, and that garden inside of us is vital to our overall health. And if it's upside down, and right now a majority of Americans, I'd say 90% of us have 80% pathogens and 20% good, and it used to be 80% good and 20% bad in my grandmother's era, but it's directly related to the fact we don't have immune and growth factors in our diet anymore.
Yes.
Those immune and growth factors always kept the disease-causing pathogens at a low level.
Yes.
And we don't have them. Now, we did a study with the Weston A. Price Foundation asking members of the Price Foundation to get us information about their overall health. Now, that is a society that tells their members to drink raw, fresh milk. That's what the whole purpose of that organization has been. 100 years, over 100 years, nonprofit. And their espouse is raw, fresh milk. And this is why their members are so healthy. On a majority basis, very, very, very few of them, almost none of them, have autoimmune conditions. Now, I want to talk briefly about a couple of other things. We did a study with IGF-1, which is the primary growth hormone in colostrum, with rats, with mice, okay? Now, we didn't harm the mice. So what I want to tell you is that we had mice that were diabetic.
Okay.
And there's a class of mice that are diabetic. They need insulin in order to survive, just like humans, okay? And we put them on a 4-day fast with nothing but IGF-1, the hormone, and it restored the pancreas's ability to produce insulin.
Isn't that amazing?
Do you understand what I'm telling you is earth-shaking, ground-shaking?
Oh, my goodness.
So we're going into secondary studies now with humans.
Please share this now. Listen closely.
We're going into secondary studies now with humans. And so if you do, we have seen this over 25 years of working with colostrum, where type 1 diabetics, insulin-dependent, can either greatly reduce their insulin needs or eliminate it. And it depends on a number of factors. But we finally found out what was the key to turning this around, and that is doing a total 4-day, nothing but colostrum and water. Now, I'd advise you, anyone out there, don't do this on your own.
No,
please.
You want to be under.
You want to be under medical supervision when you do this, and you need to do a cleanse, of a basic cleanse,
and you don't
before
stop.
you do this.
You don't stop your medication.
And you don't want to stop medication, but you want to be testing your blood sugar consistently through this. You have to be under medical supervision.
You gave me this study, and
so
guess
you need
what?
to see Dr. Lee about this kind of thing.
I just had a patient to do just this.
Yes.
He was on oral diabetic medication, microphage, and he was also up to like 18 units of insulin. And I'm going to go into what type. But he was on 18 units. After doing this, because he was on a modified fast, because he was taking another product, which was a green food, but it wasn't just that. But he was on the colostrum. All of my patients go on colostrum. They know me for this. They all go on colostrum. So when that happens, it's just amazing what start happening to your body. He called me after 2 weeks, and said, I'm off the oral medication, and now I'm just taking 4 units of insulin.
Yes.
Because I told him, I said, start watching it very closely. And then call your doctor. So, and guess what happened, Else? Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
And I know we know this helps with cancer as well. He went back because he had liver cancer.
Yes.
He went back to the hospital and had his liver test, along with had some metastasis to the bone. And they said, after the PET scan, I'm not a big advocate for PET scans, but we know that's the only definitive way you're going to find cancer. They did a PET scan, and they said the cancer is gone. Now, this
Marvelous.
is 2.5 months of treatments. 2.5 months.
Let's address this another way. It's important I bring this up.
So they even repeated the PET scan because they couldn't believe it.
I believe you. I do. Because the doctors don't. I mean, it's
then
like my allergy test.
Then after
doctors
the PET scan, I have to give people more because that was sugar. So now I got to increase their program a little bit more.
One of the things that I want to mention is that there's some buzz out on the internet about IGF-1 and colostrum and cancer causing cancer. And I want to straighten that up right here. The tests that were done on IGF-1 were done with recombinant isolated IGF-1. I want to explain what that is.
Okay.
Recombinant means that it was grown on a plant. It is not bioidentical in any. It's 70% complete. Monsanto created this hormone to induce cows to produce milk for a longer period of time. And when you give anybody a recombinant hormone, isolated, that means singular, by itself.
Yes.
And it will cause cancer. There's no question about that.
You know, I want to make it
to address what colostrum is.
Can I just cut you off just for a moment? Because there's so many companies out there, and I want to make it clear. This is Sovereign Laboratories.
That's correct. And colostrum LD. LD stands for liposomal delivery.
There's so many others out there. I don't want anybody to start hearing just the word colostrum.
We have the only clinically proven colostrum on the market.
Make sure, yes.
And 25 years of history, longer than anybody in the world.
But the reason you started this, and I know I cut you off, but this is what touched my heart over 15 years ago when you told me why you even started this business. Because
I'd be happy to tell your listeners, your viewers.
And that was
touching. This started 25 years ago when I was married to a beloved soulmate of mine. I met her under circumstances that were so enlightening and God-giving that it was just amazing to me. And then as time passed over a few years, this beautiful woman, Kay, and I were married, and I found out she was sick. Every 3 to 4 months had to be on antibiotics, and the antibiotics were killing her. And why was this going on? It was a mystery. So we went back to her family doctor. When she was an infant, he took radiation and radiated her thymus gland over and over again. Now, I want to tell you that this was not an isolated incident. This happened to over 500,000 people in this country.
Yes, I know so.
Because this was called radiation medicine. And it was in the 50s, after World War II, radiation medicine was supposed to be a big deal. We were going to change the world with this. 10,000 doctors died of radiation poisoning because they didn't know what they're doing. Killed themselves and 500,000 people. So what happened is she couldn't produce T cells. Yeah. And if any of you know of AIDS patients, they're constantly checking their T cell levels to see how their immune system's operating. That is the backbone of the immune function. And she couldn't produce any of them. And so when she was dying, and I happened to have a very good friend that I didn't know this. He was a naturopathic doctor, and we're having a conversation, and I'm really let down. I mean, I'm dragging. I'm shot mentally and spiritually. I'm losing my wife. Mm-hmm. And he turned to me, and it didn't take him 2 minutes, and he says, "What about colostrum?"
Yes.
And I went, oh, my God, I grew up on a ranch, and the colts and the calves will die if they don't get colostrum immediately. It has to be the most powerful immunological substance in the world, our first food of life. And he said, you bet. This turned her life around. She never again had to take an antibiotic for over 20 years. Never again got a cold or flu. I haven't had a cold or flu in 25 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Not a one. That's what colostrum has the power of doing. You know, colostrum was the antibiotic of choice throughout all of history. In Ayurvedic medicine, going back 4,000 years, in Egyptian, the hieroglyphics, in the Bible, the Old Testament talks about first food over and over and over and over again. And it was a very, very special substance that the Old Testament prophets took to have prophetic dreams. It gets you in touch with spirituality. Yes. I look at colostrum as even more important than this. I think colostrum is the gift of love that Mother gives the infant. It is that embodiment
yes, it is.
of the soul and the spirit.
Yes.
And it brings the newborn into life with an awakening that allows us to experience this time frame and be in this plane with perfect health.
Yes. Now, I know we still have time to go, but I want you to, whatever is kind of really in your heart, we said so many heartfelt things as it is. But I want you to look into the eyes, like you look into the eyes of a person, like you're looking into my eyes, and look into the camera there. And, I usually kind of do this at the end of the show, but we have still so many things to cover because of what the colostrum is good for.
Mm-hmm.
Then I want to talk about a little bit about when it comes to how do you extract how is it formulated?
Let's talk about its quality, because that's
the quality
very, very
is
important.
very important. The quality.
When I first started with colostrum 25 years ago, I was getting this from a local dairy. And all of the colostrum we gather comes from grade A dairy cows that are antibiotic and hormone free.
Okay. And I really want to stress that hormone free, because a lot of people said they're vegan and they don't want to do this. So hormone free.
Nobody's a vegan, because if you were breastfed, you were not a vegan. You make a vegan choice mentally by after you've been born and breastfed, hopefully. So we didn't start out as vegans.
No.
And so here's the important part.
Yes.
When I was getting colostrum from a local dairy farmer and I was drying it in my kitchen, I was using a very low heat in a food dryer, and I didn't damage it. And I went out to every commercial producer of colostrum in the world. I went to Europe, and I went to Asia, and I went 6 of them in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And they were producing colostrum to sell back to the dairy farms so that they could provide extra colostrum for the calves that were sick, etc. And human producers that do sell supplements came along and started buying colostrum from them. The colostrum that is produced by these people are produced in very high heat food dryers.
Yes.
And the only thing that's left in there is about half of the immunoglobulins, nothing else. And if you have nothing else, that means there's no growth factors there. And so let's get right back down into the really important point here. No lactoferrin, no PRPs, no polypeptides, no growth factors means that it won't heal leaky gut.
Yes.
All it will do is help reduce some of the pathogens in the gastrointestinal tract and help boost some immune function. Mm-hmm. That's all my competitors' colostrum will do. They will not do the job. And this is why none of them, by brand, have ever put their colostrum through a clinical study. Now, here's the other part of this. When colostrum is produced in the breast, when it's extruded from the mammary cell, it's surrounded by the outside surface of that cell. We call it the cell membrane. Mm-hmm. The cell membrane is made up of very special lipids. This is a big fancy word for special fats.
Yes.
Okay. These are not omega-6s or 3s. These are liposomal lipids. So they're very, very important. Phosphatidylserine is the liposomal lipid.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And phosphatidylserine is critical for brain health.
Yes, it is.
And it's very, very vital. Okay.
That's
so
why
where do we get
phosphatidylserine?
We get it from milk, from dairy. We get it from colostrum.
Yes.
And when the colostrum is produced, it's surrounded by the cell membrane. And so raw fresh colostrum is the best source of colostrum you can possibly do, but you can't get it.
No.
And we can't ship it, and we can't store it because it goes bad. And if we freeze it, guess what? We fracture the liposome.
Right.
If we dry the colostrum, we fracture the liposome.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody that's producing colostrum out there is fracturing the liposome. The liposome is critical for this. It prevents oxidative damage. It prevents it from being digested. And it delivers the components that are needed into the bloodstream, into our body, and all the way down to the cellular level, even across the blood-brain barrier. And this is what nature devised as a delivery system that is so perfect.
Yes.
Now, when we dry our colostrum, remember I said that that liposome gets fractured.
Exactly.
So we go back in and apply, and we reapply the liposome to the dried powder. Now, I spent millions of dollars, our company, my company, I'm the founder of, spent millions of dollars figuring out how to do this so that we didn't have colostrum being in a bunch of oil. Now, you look at liposomal delivery supplements that are on the market today that are oily and gooey, and that is not a liposomal delivery.
And
all that is
had some in the bag and they
curcumin
went bad.
or something in oil. That's all it is.
And they swelled in the bag because they were no good.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they claim that that's a liposomal delivery. It is not. Mm-hmm. Liposomal delivery is microscopic, and it surrounds the cells of the colostrum on a cellular level, and it doesn't.
It gets right into that
but
cell.
It has to be applied in a very specific manner in order to provide that structure.
Exactly.
And so what happens with the liposomal delivery is that we have when we mix it with water, we have reconstituted our colostrum back to being exactly what it was before we started its raw, fresh colostrum, exactly as nature intended it. Mm-hmm. So in other words, we have the only way of delivering the whole, complete molecular structure as nature provided it to you and deliver it to your home.
And, I'm just so excited because, again, I'm the only one in the world that's doing the CRT testing for early screening for breast cancer. The one good component of that, and actually it's FDA registered, which is really amazing. But the component of it, when I do the scanning, it lets me see the lymphatic system. And it always shows that they're congested. They're congested. And this is another, when I have a printout report as soon as I finish, and then I show the patient, this is just one step. We're going to do the lab work as well. Mm-hmm. This is not a one-stop type of assessment. And then they can see from themselves, okay, they're congested. That means, look, from the breast, I don't know what kind of deodorant you were using, but all these things from the past now have made an impact where things are not flowing like they should through the body. And people know about the abdominal, they talk about the lymphatic system, and people know that when they say, oh, the cancer has spread to the lymph nodes. Yeah. So they kind of know that. But keep in mind, the ones underneath your neck are always congested with my patients. And you know why they're congested in the face? Because of allergies. Allergies. Yeah, dental allergies or lack of exercise.
That's why a majority of people have sinus infections.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And not knowing that some of those sinus problems are dental. Because the teeth are so far up into the root.
So as a suggestion to your patients out there,
I have them on it. I'm a step ahead.
Yeah, you are.
I was a step ahead. I was so amazed when we had a conversation the other day, some things you had discussed, and I said, oh, my goodness, I've done that, and this is my results.
So you brush your teeth with colostrum.
Let me just say this. Somebody put something on Facebook, and they showed HPV of the throat. I just saw that this morning.
Yeah, I sent you a study on that, too.
Yeah, I know you did. Yeah. HPV of the throat. Well, I tell people to be very careful who they're kissing or what they're kissing.
So, it goes even worse than that. What we have is younger people today are so easy to do oral sex.
Well, that's why I said
we're going to talk about sex a little bit here for a minute because oral sex is increasing throat cancer dramatically.
Oh, I know. I said this years ago before
and
one of
can help prevent this.
Entertainers came out and said he made a comment about it. But I was telling people years ago because I was coming out with a product years ago, and that was part of it. Yeah. And to be careful what you eat and where you're eating.
This is why we recommend colostrum only be taken in a powder form, not capsules, because you want to mix the colostrum with water. You want to swish it around your mouth. You want to gargle with it. You want to sip it slowly. We start the healing process right in the mouth. We prevent dental caries that way. You can brush your teeth with a colostrum, okay?
Yes.
And then it heals the throat so that GERD damage, acid damage to the throat is healed. Our colostrum has live antibodies for H. pylori, the bacteria that cause ulcers. So we're going down and we're controlling the H. pylori. And so all the way through the colostrum works.
Because I just want to say that
you can apply colostrum topically too.
Yeah. I want to say that the H. pylori. Most people who have a lot of burping, because I have a couple of friends, and I told them, I said, you're doing I've known you for years, and you're losing weight, and you have this. I said, just have your doctor, if you don't want me to test it, have your primary care doctor test you for H. pylori. Yeah. Never did check it. And then later I found that stomach cancer.
But the problem when you have a primary care doctor do this is they put you on 2 antibiotics for a 10-day period of time.
It's actually
and that
3.
kills 99.5% of the H. pylori, and the remaining are now impossible to treat, and it always comes back.
And then you have other problems
after
that.
And so the better solution to this, and I try and teach physicians all across the country, is we don't want to kill the pathogens. We want to manage them. We want to keep their infection levels to a point of where they're not causing symptoms. Now, I'm going to give you a big case in point on this.
Okay.
Clostridium difficile, C. diff, is the primary cause of hospital-based infections. And the hospitals go to great lengths to clean surfaces, okay? Clean everything. They're in there with disinfectants, cleaning the phone and even the doctor's tie and his lapels, etc. Because if they touch them and then touch you as a patient, they're passing this disease on.
Yes, they are.
But what they don't understand is that 40%, 4 out of 10 patients coming in that door are carriers of C. diff. And when you give them an oral antibiotic prior to surgery, you blow up the C. diff and create a massive infection that creates massive diarrhea that erodes the gut lining. And 16.5% of those people on an annual basis are dying because of those C. diff infections. Yeah. And this is preventable.
Yes, it is.
If you do colostrum prior to and during the hospital process, okay? Because the colostrum will prevent that C. diff from rearing up and becoming infectious diarrhea.
Well, then they lose so much money on all the antibiotics.
Our colostrum has antibodies in it.
Yeah,
live
I know they do.
For every infectious bowel-based cause of diarrhea. So we're talking about E. coli and Salmonella and Cryptosporidia and Salmonella and
then now you're dealing with CMV, cytomegalovirus.
This is another thing. So when we talk about CMV causing vaginal cancer and cervical cancer, colostrum can be used topically as a douche, and it's going to do two things. It will rid the vaginal canal and rid the the internal female parts of cytomegalovirus. Now, it's going to do something else. We have clinical studies that show, and this is very important for women that are over 60, because 50% of the women in this country have what we call a vaginal pain, etc., during sex. Mm-hmm. And colostrum will rebuild and maintain the strength and integrity and eliminate that pain process if you do it regularly on a douche basis.
Right.
Just mix the colostrum with water.
It has to be done properly.
Yeah.
Most OBGYN, a lot of them don't believe in douching at all. But if you're having these problems, you need to consult.
There's a difference between douching with vinegar or acidics and things that disrupt the balance of the vag. Mm-hmm. Instead, when we're talking about colostrum, we're putting immune and growth factors in there that will not disrupt the biochemistry. What it does is it prevents the pathogens from destroying the vaginal wall, the same thing as it does in your gut.
Right.
So this is a natural approach. It's very healthy.
But we will be putting a formula on our website.
You need to talk to your physicians about this.
You need to know what you're doing and not just, because some people will use any kind of water from a faucet. I've had people call me with
good water for this is very important.
Yes. So you have to use proper water. So before doing this, consult with myself, or you want to consult with someone who is actually knowledgeable in this. The water is very critical.
Excuse me, and I want to point this out. Water activates the liposomal delivery system on our colostrum, and that's what makes it bioavailable throughout the body, and makes it so that it will penetrate. When you use colostrum, you can use colostrum as a scrub. You can use it as a face mask, create a paste, go lay back on the tub, light some candles, put it on your face after you've thoroughly cleansed your face, let it dry. It will pull all the impurities out of your skin and tighten your skin and leave your skin just glowing. So there's so many uses. We've had colostrum. We did a major study with the Department of Defense on returning soldiers, etc., that have been damaged in IEDs, and colostrum does two things for them. We're able to accelerate the healing of wounds. When you take it internally and externally, it eliminates the pain, eliminates infection, and greatly accelerates the healing process. Colostrum taken internally can help prevent and can help reduce infection in the brain, where it's due to concussions, etc. We're in the middle of a study with the National Football League with retired players.
Yes.
They all have concussions, and we're seeing great results on this. And so the inflammatory process, the anti-inflammatories in colostrum work throughout the body, even in the brain.
So we're looking at, a treatment or safeguarding from the top of your head to your feet, including, I'm sure, athletes' feet as well. So, this product and this show is for everyone.
It's for all ages, and it's for everyone. And one of the things that I'd like to bring up, too, is this opioid crisis and the fact that the pharmaceutical companies pushed powerful pain medications through hospitals and doctors for the last 10 years or so, and they've created this monster. Mm-hmm. And colostrum has an ability, when we heal the gut, balance the immune system, bring it back into homeostasis, we reduce inflammatory processes throughout the body. Guess what? All pain is related to inflammation. That's why every pain med is called an anti-inflammatory. And so if we want to naturally reduce inflammation in the body, colostrum is your primary and best choice.
I had some swelling. My granddaughter was with me that day, and I said, oh, my goodness, look at my knee. It's all swollen. I hyperextended it some kind of way, something I was doing. But taking the colostrum and everything the night before, the next morning, it was back to normal and no pain.
Yeah.
And it works fast. My worst scenario that I've seen personally is I had gone to a vegan restaurant, and I won't name which one. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, I end up with food poisoning. Sometimes people think it's only food poisoning because of meat. But no, you can have food poisoning from a vegetable as well.
Vegetables actually cause more food poisoning than
meat, and people don't realize that. But when I got home, I'm telling you, I don't even know how I made it in the door. I had a fever of 103, and I knew I had a big load the next day at the office. I said, you know what? I don't have time to be sick. I keep my colostrum at home. Usually I keep it at home, and then if I have an empty stomach at the clinic, then I have a bottle there.
Yep.
So people know that I'm usually not going to be out of my colostrum. So I took a very large dose that night. My stomach hurt so bad, and the pain was so bad that the next morning I was pain-free, went to sleep, and slept like a baby, and no fever. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
that's what it should.
That's why I tell people certain things we need to just create like our own personal bag for health, first aid kit, and that needs to be part of it. You need to have that as part of your first aid kit.
We lecture at medical conferences. I mentioned this earlier in our talk about colostrum and doctors, et cetera. And what we teach doctors and physicians all over the world of all types is take your patients and do the testing, the blood testing you talked about, and put every one of them on colostrum, and watch what happens over a 30 to 45 day period. And any remaining issues that are there, you can deal with more effectively. It will take 80 to 85% of those symptoms and bring them down and bring about a homeostasis that's just absolutely incredible.
Wonderful.
We want to tell your listeners how to get colostrum.
We want to tell them, but I want to let people know first.
Yep.
All colostrums are not created equal. And
That's
now
correct.
We're going to tell them where they can get it.
We have the only colostrum that is tested for components and has the liposomal delivery. And those are critical because otherwise when you digest colostrum, it's no more potent than powdered milk.
Yes.
So colostrum LD, remember the liposomal delivery colostrum LD. Now the way you can get this and get a free sample is by going to sovereignlaboratories.com, and the easy way to find that is MySovLabs, MySovLabs.com.
But they're going to go through my website.
Yep. And you want to, what we want to do is have Dr. Lee has a special brand of colostrum that is professional strength.
And it's pro.
Okay. So you need to get in touch with Dr. Lee and her website, and that's a pro professional strength type of colostrum.
Yes, it is. / Dr. Lee.
Yep. Now we have a other site that I want to bring your listeners and your audience attention to. We have a nonprofit. It's a 501(c), and it's called Sovereign Health Initiative, and that site is mysovhealth.org.
Wonderful.
Now you can't get colostrum there. What you get there is information and education.
And education
that you can share
important.
with anybody and everybody in your family. And it's very important. There's videos there. You can also go to Dwyatt on YouTube and colostrum. You can do Dwyatt and leaky gut syndrome on YouTube and watch the videos about leaky gut syndrome and pass and share those destinations on.
Wonderful. But remember, go to New Wellness, New in You, Wellness Healthcare.com. And you'll find
and that's where you'll get
link.
samples from Dr. Lee on our professional strength colostrum.
Yeah, on the professional strength, and I'm so happy.
Yep.
So the
professional strength is only available through physicians.
Yes.
I want to make sure you understand.
Yeah, say that one more time.
Professional strength is only available through physicians.
So please go to our website. You can go to newwellnesshealthcare.com. It's on the screen there. For those who are listening, new is in you, wellnesshealthcare.com. Phone number 310-929-2408. You can always call me as well. This has been a great show, and we're almost out of town. You're out of town from out of town. We're almost out of time.
Well, I'm so happy to be with you here today, Dr. Lee, and thank you so much for inviting me to be here with you.
You're
to
just
share
wonderful.
This message.
We're going to have to do this again because there's so much research, and it's all formulating and populating more and more research. So I'm going to have you back again. One of the things that I
want to mention too on the air, we have an endorsement from the Chinese Medical Association that has over 10,000 physicians. They've endorsed our product, the only colostrum that they've ever endorsed, and they will never endorse any of our competitors. They're taking our colostrum into major studies in 42 hospitals in China. Within the next few months, we're going to be looking at very, very big numbers of people, and we're going to be exploring diabetes and autoimmune and all the relationships.
Well, we're going to have more case studies. I'm going to tell one because we're really out of time. I had a person who had a lesion on his chest.
Mm-hmm.
His dermatologist was going to biopsy it. So I told him to make a paste with the colostrum, and he did. And he used a little colloidal silver, though, with the colostrum, made a paste.
That's a good idea. That's fine.
He made a nice paste, and in 2 days it fell off.
Yeah.
And he was taking a shower, and it just fell off. So he went back to his doctor. He said, well, whatever it was, it's gone now.
The growth factors and immune factors will destroy cancer cells.
Most definitely.
In most cases.
And this was external.
Yeah.
So if you know this happened external outside the body, just think what it's doing inside.
You can also mix colostrum with vitamin E oil because vitamin E breaks down the collagen so that the colostrum can penetrate deeper. And that's another way to do it.
There's so many benefits. Go to the site and read those articles, especially when sometimes the doctors would say, oh, no, that doesn't work for this. This research.
There's more research that's been done on colostrum than any other substance on the planet.
So
and
check
you have
it
to
out
understand why. I'm going to give you a real short clue. Virtually every one of the antivirals that are used to treat HIV/AIDS came from colostrum.
Oh, no, I've had many patients with it. I don't go into detail with it, but many patients who have been on this protocol that are still with us doing well. And you would never know.
Yeah.
So I'm just very grateful that we've had such a wonderful product that I've known you greater than 15 years, much greater, and have been utilizing it for myself, my family, all my patients. So I'm just really, really excited.
And we thank you for your loyal advocacy, Dr. Lee. It's marvelous.
Oh,
and I know
you.
You've seen the results. And
I've seen it. I've tested it.
So wonderful about it is you've got a lot of experience with it.
Lots of experience with it. And I would not miss a day with it. And I have missed a couple days here and there. But I'm telling you, I feel it I see it in my skin when I miss.
Yeah.
And that's the first place it shows up in my skin. So I just want to thank you so much for being here. Dwyatt,
you're very welcome, and thank you.
Absolutely wonderful.
It's been a blessing
Remember
to be with you.
To go to New Wellness Healthcare website to get your professional product and order it from New Wellness. It will be to your advantage to do that as well. So thank you again. This is the professional colostrum from New Wellness Healthcare.
Professional strength colostrum LD.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And in parting, I always say something, and I want everyone to repeat after me because it just starts my day. It ends my day because I am so grateful. I am so grateful that I met Dwyatt.
Thank you very much.
I am so grateful that you stay true to who you are. That's why you look so happy. You're working in a field that you're true and happy to what you're doing.
That's right.
You're living your passion.
Yeah.
And that's what's important. Live your passion.
We get calls from people every day telling us what colostrum is
and when you're healing other people, it just does something to you. I think we release healing endorphins.
Yeah.
Just hearing the testimonies from people.
Magic.
But repeat after me. I am so grateful that I am a magnet for miracles. Have a wonderful, blessed day.
Thank you.
Join us every Wednesday live at 11 a.m. for New Wellness TV with Dr. Lee. Remember, healthy mind, healthy body.